My first day of working in a nursing home, I was given the responsibility of waiting on Mr. John as a waitress. Mr. John is one of my favorite residents and is a sweetheart now. However, when I first started working at the nursing home, he frightened me quite a bit. He seemed to be easily frustrated or concerned when his meal was not correct. I had a very difficult time understanding him because his words were extremely unclear or non-existent. What my coworkers failed to inform me of is that Mr. John suffers from aphasia, which is a complication often following a stroke. Despite the location or severity of a stroke, the speech and language is extremely altered. The general purpose of my speech today is to inform you all of a stroke's cause and effect in order to inform everyone to best be proactive if, God forbid, a stroke makes its way into the lives of you or a loved one. I would first like to begin by scientifically explaining what a stroke is. According to the American Stroke Association, a stroke can happen in one of two ways. Either a blood clot prevents blood flow to a part of the brain, or a ruptured blood vessel also prevents blood flow to a part of the brain. The physical altercations of a stroke can vary immensely. However, today I will be specifically talking about the language and speech aftermath of a stroke. There are three conditions regarding speech and language a stroke can cause, which are aphasia, dysarthria, and dyspraxia. I would first like to begin by explaining what aphasia is, which is what Mr. John has. Aphasia, according to the National Aphasia Association, is an impairment of language affecting the production or comprehension of speech and the ability to read and write. There are many different types of aphasia, 8 to be specific, and I will now begin explaining through this handy-dandy chart that I've created. I will not go through all of it to save time. However, I will give you an example. The blue represents no, and the pink represents yes. And going off of the two ends of the spectrum, is the person fluent in their speech? No. Are they able to comprehend what you have said? No. Are they able to repeat an answer or what you have said? No. The person struggles and is suffering from global aphasia. On the other end, is the parent fluent? Yes. Is the person able to comprehend what you have said? Yes. Is the person able to repeat what you have said or an answer? Yes. The person has anomic aphasia. And you can repeat the process throughout the spectrum in order to understand aphasia's differences between one another. The next communicative disorder I would like to talk about is dysarthria. This motor speech disorder is where the muscle groups within the lips, cheeks, throat, or diaphragm are weakened, damaged, or paralyzed. Signs of dysarthria can include slurred speech, talking too fast or too slow, sounding choppy, or sounding hoarse. Dysarthria types include flaccid dysarthria, which is the general weakness of the muscle groups I had mentioned earlier, spastic dysarthria, which is the spasticity of the muscles, hyperkinetic, which is the involuntary movements, hypokinetic, which is rigid speaking, unilateral UNM, which is a combination of weakness, incoordination, and spasticity, and finally we have mixed, which is a combination of one or more of what I had mentioned. The final communicative disorder I will discuss is dyspraxia, and this is the incoordination of muscle movements in order to specifically say a word correctly and effortlessly. Not to be confused with dysarthria, dyspraxia is the inability to coordinate, plan, or sequence certain muscles in order to pronounce words clearly. There is technically only one form of verbal dyspraxia, which is known as oromotor dyspraxia. And like I said earlier, that is the inability to coordinate muscle movements to pronounce words. I understand that this information is overwhelming, and perhaps your brain is overloaded at the moment. But what I want to achieve more than anything in this speech is to inform you all of a stroke's serious aftermath. and altercating communicative disorders, many of which we do not know of and are unheard of. As we all are aware, communication is an extremely central component of our mental and physical health. We need it in order to communicate how we feel, physically and mentally. Losing your ability to speak or communicate is devastating and, at the very least, extremely frustrating. So we need to understand how to best be patient. And thanks to Mr. John, I am now able to understand how to listen. I am able to understand how to communicate, and I try my absolute hardest to understand his point of view. And I hope with my informative speech today, you are able to do the same if, God forbid, a stroke ever makes its way into the lives of you or a loved one. Thank you.